2021 is in the offing, and KBC Channel 1 comes with good tidings for the new year. As we appreciate you and decide to put a big smile on your face with the New Year's gift. To participate, answer a simple question and send a short message as many times as possible. And you stand a chance to win 10,000 Kenya shillings as we usher in the new year. Send us the list of programs that air between 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday on KBC Channel 1. Send a short message to 0771 702 816 as many times as possible to stand a chance to win. Happy New Year from KBC Channel 1. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
My love, I really hope that you get back to me as soon as you hear this message. Cynic, hypocrite. I cannot believe that you can do such a thing to me. Turns out that the man who saved your life is nothing less than your lover. So if you don't want your daughter to find out about the kind of woman you are, you better call me.
I'm here.
David, tell me what happened. Your wife called my husband. She said that she has to run away from you and he's sending her a plane to do it.
No, she can't do that.
I'm sure that she's making up an excuse to go to the city and be his mistress, and that can't happen. And we won't let that happen.
Did you tell him about it?
Tell him what?
You stayed in contact with Horacio, and you've kept him up to date with how Amaya is doing until now. But boy, Cipriano.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, Christmas imekuja mapema na quick bid. Lucky bidda ako hapa, tupe ndugu yake.
Ndio huyu anaitwa Penua. Heshimiwa na tumemheshimu.
Karibu.
Nduti ndio hii kifungu. Shika kifungu yako boss. Ulibidaje?
Niliingia kwa site ya quickbid.co.ke. Alafu nikafuata the process.
Oh yes.
Nikabid 158 na ndio nikaweza kubai nayo hii pikipiki.
Christmas hii hakuna kutembea. Ndio huyu mheshimiwa Kate. Tufanye aje? Kalia nduti. Ndio hii ni ya customer. Hiyo ni yako. Sawa. Kalia nduti, chukua helmet nini yako? Valia, leta nikushikie hii. Valia. Bas, quick bit wanahakikisha pia safety. Iko on point. Haya. Kalia nduti. Kate, si twende tushughulikie wengine. Si ndio? Twende tushughulikie wengine. Asanteni sana.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
"29 days into the month of December, the year 2020, the festivities continue as the countdown to the year 2021 also continues. A lot has been happening in Kenya and beyond borders, so stay with us as we keep you updated. My name is Serfine Achieng Ouma, and our sign language interpreter is Simon Karotha. Now, let's begin straight away with matters education. Education stakeholders in Trans Nzoia County are now calling on the government and well-wishers to support schools that are facing a challenge in implementing the COVID-19 safety protocols. Their call coming after it emerged that several schools are ill-prepared with just a few days left before they reopen. As schools prepare to reopen for physical learning next week, some learning institutions are yet to implement the COVID-19 safety protocols. At Precious Kids Center in Trans Nzoia County, for instance, not much has been achieved, with only a few days remaining before children report back to school. The non-governmental institution, which hosts over 200 children with special needs, usually depends on well-wishers. The financial constraints now making it difficult to set up the COVID-19 containment measures. An unfortunate situation that has seen education stakeholders in Trans Nzoia County question the state of preparedness of learning institutions ahead of schools reopening. They are calling on the government and well-wishers to assist schools that are in dire need of resources and infrastructure.
I would love to urge well-wishers to bring protective equipment, masks, sanitizers, and any other equipment or material that could aid them navigate this difficult time.
Meanwhile, Isiolo County COVID-19 Emergency Response Committee has received a donation of 5,000 KN95 face masks from the United States Agency for International Development to be used by frontline healthcare workers. Speaking while receiving the donations, Isiolo Deputy County Commissioner Andrew Mutua said that the masks will be distributed to all the health facilities on a need basis.
We have always said that yule akukumbukaye kwa dhiki ndiye rafiki. We are facing a common enemy, that is COVID-19. So any contribution from anybody goes a long way in saving lives. That is why we are so intended, we are so happy as a COVID-19 response committee, county response committee, for what Mheshimiwa has done.
There are 4 vent machines, 4 UPSs. That means that we will be able to support our clients even when the power is gone. We also have the consumables, that's the CPAP mask. We have several assorted consumables to accompany the vents delivered today to Isiolo Hospital.
And on to other matters. A woman in Machakos is accusing an insurance company of failing to compensate her despite a court order. Nancy Okware tells us of the plight of the mother of 9 who lost both her arms, which were amputated to save her life following a road accident. We will be running that story by you in a bit, but right now on to more news. Kitengela residents have been urged to support community policing in efforts to enhance security in the region. A section of religious leaders also challenged the local community to offer support to the needy in the spirit of Christmas. They were speaking as they donated goodies to police officers in the spirit of the festivities.
While donating foodstuffs to police officers in Kitengela, a group of Christian faithful from Kajiado County called on residents and well-wishers to remember the needy during the festivities. The group stating there was need to offer all-inclusive support to all members of the society, including police officers who've been working round the clock during the festive season to ensure order.
So tukasema tu tulete a very small token just to appreciate what we are doing. Our security in Kitengela imekuwa mzuri na tumeishi kwa amani.
This even as they commended officers for their efforts, urging members of the public to support community policing to enhance security in the region.
Na tunasema mtulinde, lakini wakati mwingine tunakosa kukumbuka kwamba tumelindwa baada ya Christmas. What do we do to the people that have taken care of us? Their sacrifice has made us live well and enjoy. So we are very grateful.
Kitengela Police Station OCS Jennifer Mutoko lauded the move, saying it was a rare gesture by members of the public to appreciate police officers, urging Kenyans to exercise kindness during the festivities.
Officers wa Kitengela, we are very grateful. Na pia mkienda nyumbani mjue polisi tuko imara, tunaendelea na kuwachunga.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
And our education stakeholders in some parts of the country are worried over the increase in teenage pregnancies ahead of schools reopening in January. The stakeholders are now calling on the local administration and other government agencies to intervene and ensure that all girls who are pregnant have gone back to school to complete their studies.
There's a warning that hundreds of young girls may fail to report to school on Monday due to teen pregnancies. Anti-female genital mutilation chairperson Agnes Pareyo says the lengthy closure of schools has left young girls badly exposed to sexual abuse.
I still want to ask the parents to be on watch, to be on look, to make sure that until our girls go back to school, their mothers especially are monitoring their daughters to make sure that we don't have other new cases of teenage pregnancies, because we want all our girls to go to school.
Pareyo says the government must ensure all children report back to school on 4th of January 2021.
We have information that quite a good number of girls that are not going back to school. But I want to thank the government because they said that all girls must go to school. And the chiefs and the administration will report any girl that will not have gone to school. And I also want to urge the parents to allow the girls to go back. Even if a girl has given birth, it doesn't mean that it is going to be the end of the road. This girl still has an opportunity to reach to her dream.
Lakini nataka nisungumuzie niombe kwa sababu hili jambo ni letu sisi wote, tukiwa viongozi aina yote, aina mbalimbali, tuweze kuona hawa watoto warudi shule wasikae. Ingawa ni ngumu kwa sababu lazima huyu mtoto anaogopa akiona maisha yake imebadilika, lakini naomba kwamba tujaribu tutafute mbinu wao watoto warudi shule. Kama wale wamezaa watasaa wakati huu wasae na wasasi wao washike watoto na hawa watoto warudi shule kwa sababu bado ni watoto.
Narok North Police Commander Frederick Siundu said the police will visit schools to make sure all students are back, even as he warned parents against keeping their children at home.
We are hoping that as the schools open on 4th, we should be able to have a tally from the local administration of how many children have not reported to school, so that we proceed again to investigate more and arrest the culprits. We cannot have a society where people freely take advantage of the underprivileged, of the vulnerable children, the younger girls and even the younger boys, to get them married off without realizing actually what they will be experiencing in the future.
In Trans Nzoia County, the local administration has launched a search for pregnant teenagers to ensure they prepare for reopening of schools next week.
Kuna watu ambao wako na tabia kuangalia watoto wasichana wa miaka 18 kurudi nyuma. Unaangalia mtoto akianza kutembea, roho yako inaanza kutunda. Kabla na tembea chaanguka na sisi tutaanguka na wewe. Chini ukweli jameni. Tuwache watoto wasome ama namna gani?
The move comes just days after Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea warned that chiefs in the region will face the sack if they fail to ensure that all learners report back to school on 4th of January. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
Now, away from that report by Emily K. Bade, let me now take you to Kiambu County. The government has been urged to double down on illegal logging and wanton destruction of Tigoni Forest in Kiambu County. Tigoni Residents Association says some unscrupulous traders have turned the forest into a charcoal burning haven, negating efforts made in combating climate change. The residents say they are living in constant fear of forest fires caused by wanton charcoal burning. The locals have in the meantime commended the Kiambu County Fire Brigade for its prompt response to the latest fire incident in Tigoni Forest.
Moto imezimika, lakini kama ingeshika hiki chaka yote kila mahali ingechomeka, ningekuwa shida kubwa sana. Alafu sasa ni msimu wa jua ni kali sana. Sasa moto ikishika hapa inaweza teketeza kila kitu, iharibu kila kitu.
We are calling upon the government to emphasize on the ban of charcoal burning, particularly on private land. on private property where there are lots of people who can be exposed to the hazard or the danger that comes with that.
Some good news. More than 600 widows from Ouma Bay County have benefited from relief donation courtesy of a non-governmental organization known as God Will Provide. The widows received food and other basic household items to cushion them against the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
God Will Provide Director Newton Ogada, while handing the donation, said widows and people living with disability are usually forgotten during festivities, and this, he claims, has led to psychological problems.
Today's program, we are feeding widows, giving them food, having time with them, because we realize as an organization that we have many people that they don't have families to gather them together during such holidays. So we decided to organize time that we feed all the widows within the community.
Ogada said there is need to care for vulnerable members of the society, calling for their meaningful inclusion in various development projects.
As God Will Provide, we do a lot of things. We support the vulnerable. We have children's orphanage. We support on medical camps. We have an hospital. We support in many areas in this community.
God Will Provide Foundation says it has constructed close to 420 houses for widows in Ouma Bay County.
Now let's focus on this story. A woman in Machakos is accusing an insurance company of failing to compensate her despite a court order. The mother of 9 lost both her arms, which were amputated to save her life following a road accident. Nancy Okware with the details of this plight.
Life has been unbearable for Helen Mweni Mwathi, a mother of 9 in Yatta area of Machakos County. She has been forced to depend on her son and granddaughter since 2001 when she was involved in a road accident along the Thika-Garissa highway. Following the accident, her hands were amputated, a situation that made it difficult for her to earn a living as she could not continue with her tailoring job.
Pelekwa theater, nikaonekana mpupa imepasuka na damu ikaingia kwa kichwa. Sasa hapo Kenyatta nililala miezi 3. Sasa ndio nikatoka, hata nilitoka kabla sijapona vidonda ya mikono. Sasa ndio hapo nikaanza kutipiwa nikiwa kwa nyumba. Nilitipiwa kama miaka 2 hivi 3 kama hii.
Her woes have been worsened as she has been in and out of court seeking compensation from an insurance company. Despite a ruling being issued in 2018 in her favor, ordering she be compensated by the insurance company, she is yet to receive a single penny.
Mkubwa wao ananiambia watanilipa, lakini hakuna kitu nimeshaona wameshanipea kutoka wazazi. Anahangaika na mimi mgonjwa. Saa yote naendanga na ugonjwa wangu. Saa nyingine naenda huko kwa wakili, nikashindiwa na ugonjwa, mimi nalala huko kwa ofisi. Sasa ndio nikaamua nikuje nione kama nitasaidika kwa jua watu wamenishinda.
John Matingi, her son, says he was forced to drop out of school in class 6 to take care of his mother.
Nilikaa miaka 2 bila kwenda shule na baadaye nikakuja nikajoin shule nikaanza na masomo. Kama mimi kufikia hapo ndiposa nimalize masomo, nimekuwa na changamoto mingi sana juu mimi mwenyewe ni kama mimi ndio nimejilea. Manake kama mzazi angekuwa pale angetuhudumia.
Things are no different for her granddaughter Irene Mweni, who says the situation at home has seen her abandon her social life.
Sometimes ningekosa kwenda shule, maybe nimpeleke hosi kama ni mgonjwa ama kama ameitwa na wakili, nakosa kwenda shule ndio nimpeleke Nairobi kwa sababu hizi travel peke yake. Actually nilianza kumosha nikiwa mdogo, nilikuwa na kanyaga stool ndio upate namfikia nimoshe.
The family hopes that the insurance company in question will keep its end of the bargain and pay them what is due to turn a new leaf. Meanwhile, across the coastal town of Malindi, a physically challenged woman whose leg was amputated last year after developing complications has received a wheelchair from a well-wisher. Josephine Mueni, a mother of 4, could not hide her joy following the gesture.
Nimepakatwa mkuu, nimelaswa hapo, nimetoka na 65,000 nikafanya kuchangiwa hizo pesa. Nikaenda kwa nyumba, nilikuwa nimepewa nyumba na mzee mwingine, hiyo nyumba ndio naishi.
She's been sick for quite some time. Her leg had to be amputated. So she had issues with walking around. So we decided to come back with a donation of a wheelchair to close the year with her and to give her as a present, as a Christmas present.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
All right, now moving on to other matters. Residents using Kiptome Momolti Factory Road are demanding the repair of the road, which they say is dilapidated, making it costly to transport goods and services. The residents who took to the streets say the bad road was damaging their vehicles and increasing the cost of transport. They are now demanding that the area MP repairs the road.
Wilson Kusgey, a motorbike operator, said the road is impassable, faulting the area MP Nelson Koech for allegedly focusing on national politics at the expense of the residents.
Nilianguka hapa hivi. Nikaangusha punto hapa hivi. Lakini badala ya kupanda hii nikasema acha nifuke mwenyewe, acha kwa mguu. Akaendelea kuanguka, kaangukia hapa hivi. Hapa hivi akapigwa na mawe, kumbe ni matope ya songo hapa hivi.
Sasa tunaomba atusaidie, atupanulie hii barabara, atutengenezee mitaro ndio maji ipite vizuri, ndio isiharibu barabara.
Another resident, Patrick Bett, said the reason increase in border accidents and school-going children are facing difficulties in crossing the Maji Road.
Shule karibu ifunguliwe, watoto wanaumia. Na vile hata sahi hata inyeshi na already unaweza fikiria inanyesha. Hii barabara is worst and shouldn't be existing kwa hii era kabisa.
The irate residents blocked the roads with bananas before police officers from Sosiot police station arrived to clear the road.
And now, crossing the borders, U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has accused the U.S. Defense Department of irresponsibility for failing to give his team the information it needs for the transition of power. Biden says his team has encountered obstruction from the political leadership. Biden also claimed that agencies critical to the U.S. security have suffered enormous damage under Donald Trump.
Joe Biden takes office on January 20th, but President Trump has refused to concede. For weeks after the November 3rd election, Biden was blocked from receiving key intelligence briefings, an essential and normal routine part of a presidential transition. After President Trump finally agreed to allow the formal transition process last month, Biden praised the White House for its help in the process. But his tone has since changed. Biden spoke after a briefing by national security and foreign policy aides. In a speech which he posted on Twitter, he said his team was facing roadblocks in the Defense Department and the Office of Management and Budget. The president-elect added that his team needed a clear picture of our force posture around the world and that U.S. adversaries could exploit any confusion that resulted. Meanwhile, Australia says it could deport British backpackers who flout COVID-19 rules after hundreds were seen partying at a Sydney beach on Christmas Day. Videos of the gathering, widely shared on social media, showed hordes of young revelers singing and dancing at Bront Beach in breach of regulations. The event has sparked anger among locals, with health officials calling it absolutely appalling. Sydney is battling a new outbreak after months of no local cases.
Now, 2 residents of Lamu are crying for justice after they were allegedly tortured by Kenya Defence Forces officers over suspected links to Al-Shabaab. A Mombasa rights lobby group says the victims, James Waweru and Eliud Kiarie, are nursing serious injuries inflicted last week by the soldiers using nails and axes when they detained them for close to 7 hours.
Narrating their ordeal, the duo claims they were arrested on December 21st at 8 a.m. and allegedly tortured for hours on end by a cavalry of KDF officers who accused them of supplying Al-Shabaab with food and ammunition.
bunduki. Hata kuna mmoja alikuwa ameshika shoka ambao alikuwa anageuza hiyo shoka, anashika upande wa chuma na kupiga nayo upande wa kushika.
The Muslims for Human Rights has threatened to take legal action against the officers for their brutality.
Sisi kama wakereketwa, sisi kama watetezi wa haki za binadamu, jambo hili tulipigia mbinzi, tutalifata, na serikali ya Uhuru Kenyatta lazima iwajibike, maana kila kukicha polisi wanaumiza raia. Vijana hawana hatia, hata kama wako na hatia peleka kotini. Kwa nini uchome mtu? Kwa nini upige mtu? Swala hili hatukubaliani nalo na tunalishtumu kwa njia zote.
The victims say they earn a living by digging boreholes and have no links with the militants. Wawiru and Kiarie told Muslim for Human Rights Mohuri that the officers blindfolded and assaulted them.
Tulikuwa tumefungwa. Sababu alipotushika tu kwanza kutupiga kidogo wakatufunga macho. Sasa hata wakitupiga sisi tutawaona. Lakini kuna wao ambao pale mwanzo ile vita ya kwanza wenye walitupiga mimi naweza nikawajua.
They have later put aside a container located in one of their camps in Witu during interrogation.
Hawezi piga raia in the name because you are a police officer. Lazima inquiry ifunguliwe haraka iwezekanavyo, na sisi kama Muhuri tumeingia hapa mashinani kuhakikisha kuwa hawa jamaa wamepata haki zao, na tutaenda kotini kwa niaba yao, tutaenda kotini kwa niaba ya hii jamii. IPOA should intervene haraka iwezekanavyo. Wote waliohusika, waliovunja sheria lazima wafikishwe kizimbani. Nobody is above the law.
Elsewhere, Kisii businessman is demanding justice after his driver was allegedly attacked and his truck torched by an irate mob in Kuria, Migori County.
Sasa huyo driver yangu anaendelea kusumbuka vile mmeona. Hana mahali pa kutoa pesa. Mimi ndio nilikuwa nampatia pesa kutoka kwa gari. Sasa anasumbuka. Ningependa serikali inisaidie nipate angalau gari yangu ili niendelee kupokea pesa kutoka kwa gari.
Arnold Clement says he was attacked after he unknowingly ran over a boy who had allegedly hung on to his lorry.
Mwenye alikuwa na chuma ndiye alikuwa ananichapa mgongo, akaniingiza mikono kwa mfuko, akanitoa vitu zilikuwa kwa mfuko, kuna pesa ilikuwa kwa mfuko. Simu moja ilikuwa kwa mfuko moja, simu nyingine ilikuwa kwa gari. Sasa kunichapa walikuwa wananichapa, na kuna moja alikuwa na chuma na mwingine alikuwa na miti, wengine alikuwa na mmoja mwenye alikuwa na panga ndiye alikuwa ananichapa sasa kichwa.
Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
Now, positive developments in COVID-19 vaccines seems to be the silver lining in the dark cloud that swamped the world for the longest period of the year 2020. The Kenyan government plans to roll out the Oxford AstraZeneca type as a frontline candidate within the first quarter of the year 2021. However, not every Kenyan will receive it, hence the caution not to abandon the ongoing COVID-19 prevention protocols if the infection curve is to be flattened. Kamche Menza puts these developments into perspective amid concerns over the new coronavirus strain that has emerged in the United Kingdom.
Since the first case of the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 was reported in the country, Kenya, like many other African countries, have largely depended on external efforts in the race for a COVID-19 vaccine. Globally, with a number of potential COVID-19 vaccine candidates, only 2 have been approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna vaccines. The 2 that are said to have an essentially equivalent degree of efficacy at preventing symptomatic COVID-19 infection are already in use in the UK, the US, and Europe. The Ministry of Health has indicated that Kenya, through COVAX, the Global Alliance in Vaccine Development, will avail a COVID-19 vaccine by March 2021. But due to logistical challenges, the order may not be from the 2 already registered ones.
As of today, we have 1 vaccine that is already registered and is in use
for COVID-19. That is the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. This vaccine, and together with the next one called the Moderna vaccine, were developed under the same platform. However, this vaccine requires a unique cold chain system that many countries still don't have.
To this effect, the government is targeting another vaccine candidate by Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which is still under review.
And this particular one, Kenya has actually participated in the clinical trials in our Kemri Wellcome Trust Kilifi Center, and it has shown good efficacy. And based on the parameters that we are looking at, this would be one of the frontline vaccine candidates that we shall use as a country.
With the vaccine in sight, the country is expected to receive a total of 36 million doses, 24 million from the COVAX collaboration, while the other 12 million doses will cost 10 million Kenya shillings to be funded by the government. The projected distribution is that 24 million doses will cover 20% of the population, while the other 12 million doses will cover 10% to reach a target cover of 30% of the country's population. The people who will be receiving the vaccines include frontline healthcare workers, both in public and private sectors, that total 430,000, but forming only 1% of the total population. Then those aged 50 years and above, totaling to about 5.3 million, translating to about 10% of the population. Those with pre-existing conditions totaling to 4.4 million, contributing about 8% of the population. And finally, teachers and security uniformed forces totaling 830,000, forming 2% of the population.
But I want again to reiterate that the vaccine is not going to be a silver bullet, because there's no way we can be able to immunize all the 49 million Kenyans in one go. So it is imperative that we continue to obey the measures that we have put in place.
But with a vaccine in sight, experts in vaccine development have raised concerns over the emerging new variant. Dr. George Orinda is an immunologist at the biochemistry department in Kenyatta University.
We now need to participate in the evaluation of the efficacy and also to establish the other objective regarding the safety of the vaccine, which I think Kemri Welcome in Coast is doing that. But that one, to me, there are quite a bit of gaps which locally we have not addressed. One, we are trying to do an evaluation in a population which the circulating strain might not necessarily be the same with the isolate in UK.
With threats of the emergence of COVID-19 new strains, experts opine that vaccination should run concurrently with enforcement of the COVID-19 protocols if the country is to contain the impending challenges.
The aim here is what we call herd immunity. If for example, we introduce vaccination in this country next year, what is the coverage? What are we targeting in terms of the population to cover even 1 month or 3 months? Now that coverage is what will lead us to what we call herd immunity, because we thought that the exposure to the virus could lead us to herd immunity. But apparently that can be augmented by even vaccination. So if we do the vaccination, then it will give us, but how long?
Questions about the country's readiness in rolling out the vaccine have also been raised.
One, the acceptance, I've just mentioned one. Then the second thing which you need also, what is the demand? Then you have also to understand your population. Have we done the risk assessment to determine in terms of the vulnerability of the individuals we are going to start covering? People normally talk about the health workers, the elderly and all that. But you see, we have to prepare the ground.
Deputy Director, Africa Center for Disease Control, Dr. Ahmed Ogwell, says that the plan is to have all 55 member states embark on the vaccine rollout in the first quarter of next year, despite the scarcity of the 2 approved vaccines in other parts of the world.
But it is not only these 2 candidates that are in play. We have other candidates, vaccines that are also in the final stages of doing their stage 3 clinical trials, and we expect that within the first quarter of next year, at least 3, maybe 4 other vaccine candidates will have received emergency use approval. So at this stage, I cannot tell you when that will be, because it is all dependent on the kind of data that each manufacturer provides, and it is also dependent on the company actually submitting their request for emergency use.
So then that means we are banking, now that we are not sure when the stage 3 clinical trials will end, we are still banking on should I say hope, that by the time we are ready to roll out, then they will have been approved, they'll have ended their 3rd stage clinical trial.
Indeed, yes. You only roll out when you have a vaccine candidate to approve. And you only roll out after you have bought the necessary doses of that particular vaccine that you have approved. So for now, we are doing preparedness, and we are working with all countries on the continent.
With Africa still struggling with a staggering economy, indicators such as ease of use of vaccine in terms of single or double doses should be considered in the adoption of the vaccine. Bottom line, experts say there is need for the country to embark on its own operational research and surveillance of the existing strains in the country to understand the mutation. The recent emergence of new strains in UK has seen countries impose travel bans in a bid to curb its spread. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
A comprehensive reporting there by Kamche Menza on the country's pursuit for COVID-19 vaccine. One thing that stands out, however, is the fact that the vaccine may not be readily available for everyone immediately, so the need for you to continue observing the COVID-19 safety protocols. That is the much that you can do for yourself and the people around you. Think about that. As we take this short break, we are coming back with much more.
Mtazamaji, Christmas imekuja mapema na quick bid. Lucky bidda ako hapa, tumpe ndizi yake.
Ndio huyu anaitwa Penua. Heshimiwa na tumemheshimu.
Karibu.
Nduti ndio hii kifungu. Shika kifungu yako boss. Ulibidaje?
Niliingia kwa site ya quickbid.co.ke. Alafu nikafuata the process.
Oh yes.
Nikabid 158 na ndio nikaweza kubai nayo hii pikipiki.
Christmas hii hakuna kutembea. Ndio huyu mheshimiwa Kate. Tufanye aje? Shika. Kalia nduti. Ndio hii ni ya customer. Hiyo ni yako. Sawa. Kalia nduti, chukua helmet nini yako? Valia, leta nikushikie hii. Valia. Bas, quick bit wanahakikisha pia safety. Iko on point. Haya. Kalia nduti. Kate, si twende tushughulikie wengine. Si ndio? Twende tushughulikie wengine. Asanteni sana.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more. Like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Enjoy the magic of Christmas with Coca-Cola.
Simujifanya ni washindani. Ngoja siku ifike.
Mimi ni paka mwitu, nitakupa pura.
Ni usiku sasa, matatizo kuna nini?
Mtume! Nilikwambia wacha kuzungumza na mwanamke. She has no respect. Coming to my party. Wataka kunipiga? Nipige. Kuwa makini sana ule mke wako. La usivyo tukugharimu.
Mamako mwenyewe. Wewe usiniudhi. Sawa, wewe ulimwona mamangu?
Huwezi kunisaidia? Nenda zako. To you too. Cheers.
And in the world of business, we begin with the woes in the sugar sector. Sugar farmers are crying foul over the importation of 20,000 metric tons of sugar by the government. According to the Smallholder Sugarcane Farmers Association of Kenya, the move will crowd the market at the expense of the local sugar industry players whose hard-earned investment is staring at losses. This comes at a time when Kenya is struggling to improve output due to the relatively high production costs and loss-making sugar factories, which produce 600,000 metric tons of sugar a year, below the annual consumption of 800,000 tons.
In efforts geared at averting a sugar glut occasioned by this increased importation and an eventful collapse of the industry, the Ministry of Agriculture in July 2020 introduced a myriad of measures, including the suspension of all brown sugar imports and the suspension of pre-shipment approvals, as well as extensions of all sugar import permits. However, cheap sugar imports are still finding their way into the market.
Sisi kama wakulima wa region hii tumelalamika sana kwa serikali kuruhusu sukari kuletwa kutoka nchi jirani ya Uganda. Tumejua kwamba wameshapeana jumla ama idadi ya 20,000 metric tons ambayo ita affect yule mkulima wa chini, yule mkulima wa kawaida. Hapa kwetu Kenya tumekuwa na miwa ambayo overgrow, haijafestiwa for the last 30 months, na bado tunashangaa kama serikali yetu kuu inapeana license ya kuleta sukari kutoka nchi jirani ya Uganda.
Driven by below par local production that stands at 600,000 metric tons a year, below the annual consumption of 800,000 tons.
We know the Sugar Directorate is now sitting in Nairobi with civil servants and the Minister of Agriculture, and they are just looking at the importation of sugar. The Directorate is not talking on behalf of farmers. We want the Sugar Board, which will have farmer representatives from the ground. And when they are sitting in the Sugar Board in Nairobi, they'll be thinking back home of their farmers. They will not allow what is happening now with the Sugar Directorate. So we want the sugar bill, which was sponsored by Wamunyinyi, to be passed in Parliament.
Representatives of the sugarcane farmers blame the government over importation of 20,000 metric tons of sugar, saying it will negatively affect the smallholder farmers. The cane farmers have threatened to hold protests in light of the current developments within the sugar industry.
Sisi hatuna pesa ya kupeleka watoto wetu shule. Tunashangaa kwa sababu mwaka ujao sukari itateremuka, itakuwa chini ya bei ile tunatarajia kawaida. Tunajua itakuwa ni furaha ya millers kusikia sukari imeimportiwa, watateremusha bei kuanzia next week. Kwa hivyo sisi kama wakulima tutalalamika, hatuwezi kubaliana na hayo.
This comes in the wake of a grant of a 2-year extension on sugar import limits from Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa COMESA for Kenya that Kenya had sought to revamp its ailing industry. The arrangement limiting imports was due to expire at the end of next year, February. However, Kenya requested a 2-year extension, saying increased imports could smoother its sugar business, which is not competitive and has several loss-making millers struggling to stay afloat. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now moving on, beads, ornaments and artifacts are some of the highly traded wares in the Amboseli National Park, especially during the festive season when tourists flock the park. This year, however, traders are reporting a drop in business, with a joint women venture under the Oltepesi self-help group comprising of 26 women forced to reduce prices by up to 40% to stay afloat. They now fear that the once lucrative venture is no longer sustainable owing to the COVID-19 disruptions that have affected international travel and consequently their primary market.
The hospitality industry has borne the brunt of the novel coronavirus, with global travel almost at a standstill. For this group of women, COVID disruptions have affected international travel and consequently their primary target.
Hapa tuko kwa biashara ya kutafutia watoto school fees na chakula ya watoto na sisi. Lakini tangu corona iingie tumefinyilika kabisa, mpaka watoto hata wanakosa pesa ya chakula.
Wakati tulianza mwaka mpya mwezi wa 3, hiyo ugonjwa ikakuja tukiwa na vitu mingi na hatujaiuza. Ndio wao watu wetu wa Kenya ni maushanga tu wananunua, na wanunui kwa ile bei ambayo tulikuwa tunatarajia tunauza. Sasa hiyo ndio inatuletea shida mingi, juu hatupati kazi kwa wingi, tunapata kidogo kidogo tu.
According to the women, the business venture fetched them up to 500,000 shillings monthly. Before COVID-19 pandemic, they managed to only sell 45% of the stock since April. To remain afloat, they have had to reduce prices of their products by at least 40%.
Kwa biashara kwa sasa sahi imekuwa na ugumu kiasi kwa sababu ya COVID, lakini hata hivyo tunapata wageni wachache wa local. At least wanakuja wanatununulia, wanatupromote sana sana kwa msimu huu wa mwezi huu wa sikukuu. Kwa hivyo tunatarajia mwaka ujao kazi yetu itarudi vizuri.
Kwa sababu tumesota, hatuna kitu. Tunajaribu tu kukaa na Mungu, wa maana hatuna kitu, hakuna wageni. Hii ugonjwa imelete tabashi. Tunakaa tu, maana hatuna wale wageni tunakimbiliaga, hakuna.
For instance, a beaded necklace that was selling between 450 to 500 shillings is now selling at 250 shillings. Most of the creative woodwork arts are imported from the neighboring country, Tanzania. The women now are calling on the Kenya Wildlife Services to set up a stimulus package to cushion them from the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, similar to one offered to hoteliers and community rangers within the Amboseli ecosystem. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, crossing the borders on more business news, the EU and China are closer to reaching a long-awaited business investment deal to be finalized this week and give EU firms better access to the Chinese market and improve competition conditions. The deal comes hot on the heels of the UK's post-Brexit trade agreement with the EU, which was announced on the 24th of December. Details of this and other stories from across the globe next.
According to multiple results, the deal would open up China's manufacturing sector to EU companies, as well as construction, advertising, air transport and telecoms. One of the sticking points was China's demands for access to EU's energy market, given sensitivities over national security. The deal is expected to give Beijing access to small part of the European renewable energy sector on a reciprocal basis. The pact was also designed to remove barriers to investment in China, such as joint venture requirements and caps on foreign ownership in certain industries. Once the expected deal is reached, it needs to be ratified by the European Parliament, a process that may not begin until the second half of 2021. Elsewhere, a Japanese company and Kyoto University have joined forces to develop what they hope will be the world's first satellites made out of wood by 2023. Sumitomo Forestry said it had started research on the tree growth and the use of wood materials in space. The partnership will begin experimenting with different types of wood in extreme environments on Earth. Wooden satellites will burn up without releasing harmful substances into the atmosphere or raining debris on the ground when they plunge back to the Earth. Earth. Space junk is becoming an increasing problem as more satellites are launched into the atmosphere. And finally, in April, U.S. crude plunged deep into negative territory and Brent dropped below $20 per barrel, slammed by the COVID-19 pandemic and a price war between oil giants Saudi Arabia and Russia. Well, the next several months are likely to be volatile as investors weigh tepid demand against another potential spike in oil supply from producers, including the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and allies. Markets have been tempestuous and disorderly over the last 12 months with long-lasting implications, and as we begin to form new contours towards a positive virus equilibrium, Mitsubishi UFCG Financial Group analyst said. The core crude oil ETF volatility index surged to a record of 517.19 in April. The index has since dropped to around 40, but that is still about 60% higher than this time a year ago. Refinitiv Econ data shows. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
It is now time for us to focus on some sports news, and I also appreciate those of you who are following us online. And just allow me appreciate Ngwandaru Wakwa Madore. You're watching us. Thank you so much. James Ndegwa, live watching from Malindi. And of course, Milka Okibo, you're watching from Keroka in Kisii County. Warren Vidon, you're watching us from Trans Nzoia County. Thank you so much. Keep sharing with us where you're watching us from, and in case you'd like to wish anybody the happy festivities and happy holidays, you can do that also on our social media handles at KBC Channel 1. Now, let me bring you up to speed with the latest in the world of sports. Kiwawa Football Club were crowned the winners of this year's Kachi Lebad CDF tournament played at Chelopoi Primary School grounds in Pokot North. Meanwhile, Kiwawa also emerged victorious in volleyball after trouncing Alale by 3 straight sets.
Kiwawa Football Club reached for position to bag the title with 7 points. Kodich FC, Alale, Suam, Kasei, and Kapchok FC completed the top 6 teams in the tournament. The rankings were awarded as per the number of goals scored and conceded throughout the tournament. Elsewhere, Sigor FC thrashed Kacheliba FC 4-1 through post-match penalties in a friendly match played at Chelopoi Primary School grounds in Pokot North. In volleyball, Kiwawa bagged the title after trouncing Alale by 3 straight sets.
Kitu ya maana sana katika hii michezo tunajaribu kama kusiwezi kukusa talanta ya vijana ambaye saa hii vijana wengi wako nyumbani na vijana wengi za zingine wamemaliza class 8, wengine wamemaliza form 4, wengine pia wamemaliza university na wana kazi, na katika hii michezo tunajaribu kukusa hawa katika mawaidha.
The teams that took part in the tournament were drawn from different areas within Kacheliba constituency. Karanja David for Channel 1 Sports.
And on to some international sports. Anwar Al-Ghazi scored his 5th goal in as many games as Aston Villa came from behind to earn a point against Chelsea in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. The result sees Villa move up to 5th in the table, level on points with 6th place Chelsea.
Aston Villa started brightly but found themselves behind when Olivier Giroud marked his return to the Chelsea starting lineup. With a trademark finish, both sides had chances to steal victory, with Villa coming closest when John McGinn smashed a thunderous long-range effort off the crossbar. The result sees Villa games in hand on second place Leicester City and are 3 points behind the Foxes.
And it's a wrap from us. The gentleman at the bottom of your screen is Simon Karotha. He has been assisting us with the sign language interpretation. My name is Serfine Achieng. Ouma, thank you so much for creating time for us. Have a lovely afternoon.